Hello, everybody. I'm back after a long hiatus of not uploading any videos for a long time because I've been busy with life and I've been, just working a lot. And I've been working on music too. So if anyone cares about that, I'll leave a link to my website down in the description of the video so that you guys can find my music project, which is called Autumn. But you're replacing the U's with V's. So, um, the video I'm going to be talking about today is, or the subject I'm going to be talking about today is Infination. Which, the problem with that, first off, is Infination is based on a hashtag on Twitter. It is actually a clothing line. Uh, and that's not what I'm going to be talking about because obviously it's not me talking about clothing here. I'm going to be talking about like a scientific theory that I came up with, which isn't really a theory. It's kind of like an idea that scientists have already come up with already that I haven't figured out the official name to because I don't know exactly how to define it myself. So, well, the idea, okay, first of all, I can't call it infination, so I'm just going to call it infinite magnification. That's what I'm going to call it for the rest of this video. But the document that I wrote, or the written piece of it that I've put together, I call it the theory of infination, but it can't be called that. So here is. So I typed it all down because I was gonna post it on a philosophy magazine or publish it in some shape or form, but I can't because obviously Infination is a clothing line instead. The way I well, I'll also put the description. No, I'll also put the documentation of the theory in the description as well, because if you care at all or you're interested at all, it'll let you read along with what I'm saying, and I can, and help anyone interpret it in any way that is actually accurate to what I think it is. So, and this isn't like I don't know. There's not a lot of scientific basis behind this. I mean, there kind of is, but there's a lot of theory. There's a lot of philosophy. There's a lot of hypothetical, ideas being set, and it's not exactly possible to prove, but it's also not impossible to prove. Number one, because we don't have the technology to prove it. Number two, well, even if we did have the technology to prove it, there's no definite end to it because it's infinitesimal, so you can't prove it. Anyway, it would just go on forever, and until we find an end to it, I'll get into that in a little bit because that's an important part of my theory of infinite magnification or objectional infinite magnification or something like that. Some strange name, some obscure name for it. But I'm not gonna worry about the name anymore. I'm gonna jump right into this, and I'm gonna start off with the definition of it. Well, more so just the name itself, because I had a problem with writing the name out of the theory because grammatically it was incorrect too, because infinite obviously means to go on forever, or in some layman's terms context, and the suffix of nation is usually describing a big group of people or a society being put together or something like that. I might be wrong about that. I have no idea. But so the definition of what I called infination in this document, which isn't infination anymore, I'm going to stop bringing that up because I'm pretty sure you got the point. Infination is the conceptually subjected idea or nomenon that all things that inhabit existence or physical manifestation of matter and existence are all infinite. Now, I know that's a mouthful because there's a lot of words in there that, people aren't normally used to hearing. Uh, so instead of using the conceptually subjected idea, it's more so just a theory kind of thing, philosophy idea. Hold on, I don't remember why I used the word nomenon. Give me a second here, guys. According to Wikipedia, in metaphysics, the nomenon is a posited object or event that exists independently of human sense and or perception. The term nomenon is generally used when contrasted with or in relation to the term phenomenon, which refers to anything that can be apprehended by or is an object of the senses. Okay. So here's the reason why I use the word nomenon in this instance, because the only reason why we're able to observe anything in existence is because we're able to observe it. And if it was, if we had the senses of maybe I don't know, something that has different sight than humans, like a fly, I guess, which is a kind of obtuse kind of comparison there, but anyway, that all things that have an existence or physical manifestations of matter in existence are all infinite. So here's the point of that. The point to understand that things are all infinite, to be more precise about it, you have to really think about what that means. You have to really think about what physical manifestations of matter is, or the existence of them being infinite. And I don't mean them like being outwardly infinite, like infinitely capable of being expanded, when you take an object and you can stretch it like it's gum or whatever, you know what I mean? But except with gum, it still remains the same object because it just becomes thinner, but it's still being stretched longevely. So as well as the constant status of infinite substance. So this is what I mean here. This is basically what infination is, or the concept of infination. It's an infinite substance of something describes it as, well, the way I picture it is like you have a planet in the middle of space that's made of water, and that water planet just kind of keeps on growing because it's gravitational pull, and whatever creates the water in the planet keeps getting created, and it just goes on forever. That's what I mean. Or an inwardly, well, I suppose I forgot about that. Like, astronomically, things can expand infinitely, theoretically. Same with micro measurements, and that's kind of the whole point with this whole theory. All things in existence are infinite, along with the infinite concept that all things are in common with infinite contents of physically confined existences are not limited to a finite substantial point of atomic and subatomic density. That's a mouthful. I think I have a few grammatical errors there, but that's fine. So based on the theory of infination, when I say all things in existence are infinite, along with the infinite concept that all things are in common with infinite contexts of physically confined existences, I mean that, give me a sec, because it's been a while since I've read this, so I'm still trying to remember what everything was. And it's not just babble, I promise. But even though it sounds like it, it's the babblings of a madman. All things are along with the infinite concept, but all things are in common. Okay, so what I mean by this is that this, like in layman's terms, it relates to all things. It would relate to the phone that I'm using as the camera here. It would relate to the mouse that I have. It would like inwardly everything has a subatomic density, and substantial point of atomic or subatomic density, that scientists have concluded that it stops there. Well, not so much concluded. They just kind of never ventured further than they already have. This does not reciprocate with objectional expansion, considering that objects that remain in solidified or liquid state do not expand infinitely. Sorry, I gotta move this. Sorry. Do not expand infinitely. This also applies to gases for an atomic level. They can only shift across and reshape. That kind of contradicts what I just said a few moments ago. I suppose that when you're reading, or no, when you're thinking about an object moving, or okay, what I'm saying here, I think, is that I'm talking about human beings. I'm talking about objects that are confined in gravity, and not objects that aren't confined in gravity, if that makes any sense. When you think about, like suns, or you think about mass gases and clusters of star explosions, I think, or supernovas. They're called things called NGCs, which is the new general. I think it's called the new general catalog, which those are the beautiful pictures of uh of pictures of space and stuff that you find online. If you one of my favorite is NGC 227. That's my favorite. I think it's called the Rosetta Nebula. But it's just kind of that. This applies to gases for an atomic level. They only shift across and reshape. I didn't know as much about how science works back then. I've made more studies and I've corrected my way of thinking here. These things are only possible in the confines of gravitational pull, or the theory of gravitational pull. But so yeah, there's that. Okay, but the elephant question in the room is: there an existential object inner limit? It needs to be put on trial. Okay, that is basically the question that brought me to this theory of infination, which is there an existential object inner limit? I don't think anybody's actually taken that into consideration because we're too focused on the we're really focused on what's right, like face value terms of science, and we're focused on that because it helps us in the short term and maybe in the long term. But I don't think a lot of us ask the questions like these because these are questions that really are affected in the long term. And I'm not saying with this theory I have an answer, but it's more so like it's a question that leads to an answer, I suppose. And then my explanation kind of helps point the direction for it. But what I mean by is there an existential object inner limit? I mean, I'll get into that in a minute with this document, but it goes further into it. So, okay, so here's one of the things that makes it unfalsifiable, because you can't prove infination. You can't. You can't physically show it to somebody, and that's why it can't be proven. Um, unless there's enough scientific evidence that says otherwise, then it can't be proven. one of the reasons why I say here and bold text and quotations, all things in existence are intentionally infinite. The quote of that, which is a thought, cannot be objectionably proven unless a specific experiment is done. And this is where I got a little creative with my rating, I guess you could say. I came up with this scientific experiment in my head where it could be possible, maybe not with our technology now. Actually, I probably think we could, but it depends on how magnified we can make things. If we were to have the capability to scope in on an object with an infinite magnification or purview of the object, seemingly infinite data collected within the object itself, the theory will be considered unfalsifiable. Until an apparent objectively seen physical limit is seen, this must be met when there is no longer any noticeably divisible material containment. And as of humans' use of technology, we will always have a limit capability within it. This experiment will remain to be studied until one of the predetermined thought outcomes. That's a big mouthful again. What I'm saying here is, let's say we have a magnet or magnifying glass, and we're looking at a rock. If we have a magnet or a magnifying glass that can look into something infinitely, if you've seen those magnifying glasses that have a wide one and then they have a smaller one and then a smaller one, because it helps scope in on the object a little further. That's what I mean. But again, you have to be careful with that because sometimes the object can become blurry and then it'll come upside down and then you can't see it right and blah 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 blah. Optical illusions and stuff like that. The reason why that this is important is because you have to be able to actually see an object, not have something else inside it. That's what I mean. And when I mean object here, microscopically, I more so mean atoms, electrons, quarks, well, up and down quarks, and then what is inside those quarks, and then even further all the way down, we go down to a Planck length, which I think is the smallest form of scientific measurement that we have right now. I don't know if that's been updated or not. So another example that I have of Infination, well, along with the scientific experiment, it kind of it portrays the idea better, and I'll show you a picture of it. It's I gotta because I'm just taking snapshots now. I'm not sure if you can see this or not. Yeah, you can. I'm looking at my phone screen. What you're seeing here is a mirror being faced towards another mirror, and then you have something over here. It's called the over here on the left side, you see it go on for infinity, which basically portrays Infination, or the scientific experiment that I have in the idea for Infination. I know that sounds a little crazy, but you know, what are you gonna do? I'm a deep thinker, I guess. I don't know. This is some kind of surface level stuff too. Not really all that deep. This is kind of stuff. I mean, I'm pretty sure any person who's thought about this long enough can come up with the same conclusion I have. I'm not that special. Let me think here. Okay, so based on that picture that I have here, the theory, nomenon, idea, Infination cannot be proven to exist or be truthful. It's not entirely possible, but it's not certainly evidentially extremely plausible. The smallest use of measurement is known as the Planck length. To show you how insane that measurement was, in the document I kind of put what a Planck length measurement actually is. So it's Yeah, I don't even want to bother saying that. Emphasis on the extremely small measurement used, and a teraparsec, which is essentially 1 trillion parsecs. A parsec is basically 3 light years, so you can kind of come up with the idea that it's like 3 trillion light years, and that's an astronomical measurement that we use for some reason. No, I'm just kidding. I know exactly why we use it. We use it to distance planets and stuff like that. Um, The use of these ridiculously external blah 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 was by the theory itself, blah 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 blah, bunch of scientific bullcrap that I'm not interested in reading, even though I wrote it. I go into metaphysical and cognitive information here, but I'm very brief about it, and I don't think I went into it long enough. So I'm not going to go into it at all. If you want to read about conscious and metaphysical information, then you're going to have to read the document for yourself. But yeah, I suppose that I don't know. I'll put this document on another website. I'll put it on like, I don't know. I'll put it on Tumblr or something, and then I'll make a new Tumblr account and then I'll post it there. But well, maybe not Tumblr. I might put it on. I'll think about that later. I think it's called Wattpad or something like that. I'll put it on Wattpad. Um, that's basically what Infination is as a theory. Again, I can't call it Infination anymore because Infination turns out to be a clothing line, and it really sucks because Infination sounded cool, and it's like a clickbaity name, and it's like it gets people interested into the idea. But yeah, that's basically what it is. I know there's some scientific miscalculations, and it's probably wrong in a lot of aspects, but it's definitely worth thinking about. Like, even though I'm probably wrong in a lot of aspects, like the whole, um, I'm probably wrong about the scientific experiment. Like, I don't even know if we do have the technology to look even further than a Planck length either, which is probably why we don't have another name for something yet. um, even if the Planck length is not the limitation for measurement, what would the use of it be? There's no practical use for it. You know, there's no, well, I mean, a Planck length is definitely practical in some sense because it helps us measure things in some scientific sense that I don't understand. Uh, but when it comes to anything smaller than a Planck length, it's very hard to make that a practical use. You know, the only thing that we get out of it would be, oh yeah, there's another thing that we found that exists now, and then we have to call it another thing, and then we have to do that forever, which is extremely unfortunate and inconvenient. Uh, However, it does present the idea of, you know, for any atheists out there or anyone that's, you know, agnostic or anybody that believes in God, uh, this theory kind of led me to having enough faith that he exists. Uh, and I can't prove that God exists. I can't say that he exists. Nobody can do that. But unless you're God yourself or you're, I don't know. I don't know. But obviously I'm not saying that this is a Christian or religious doctrine right here or document. This is a strictly philosophical scientific experiment or idea and nomenon that I've for some reason thought was impressive at the time, which really isn't. Um, and it helps people that, you know, that think about these kind of things. Like it lays it out for them. Like if they thought about this before, but they never actually wrote it down. Like maybe maybe there's no limit to objectional space, whether it's minor or major. Maybe there isn't, you know, a limitation to anything. What if we're all just infinite? And, you know, we're all just little specks of infinity in one grand scheme of infinity. So I don't know, but even if it's not true, well, it's even if it isn't true, even if it is, you can't prove it, but it's an interesting concept to think about. So after this, I'm gonna be. I don't know what I'm gonna be doing after this. What am I gonna be doing? I have no idea. Oh yeah, I made another document about mentality, emotions, and free will, which is an interesting thing. Um, Thank you, whoever stuck with this video this long. It's a lengthy one. I know it's a lengthy one, but can't can't really explain Infination without sounding like a madman who thought in his room for too long and decided to write something down just because he couldn't get it out in any other way, shape, or form because he's crazy. Uh, no, I'm just kidding. Uh, obviously, obviously, the documentation of this is immature and, well, amateurish. It's not well written and it's not well represented. Uh, but it does leave a lot to think about whoever reads it. And that's enough for me. If it gets people to think about these things and it helps them get into a mental space where they think that they're getting somewhere philosophically and then they come up with some sort of enigmatic idea, then they can write something about this. Um, which would sound fun. I would like to debate someone about Infination. That would be really fun. Um, not based, not entirely based on scientific facts because I'm not really good with scientific facts. I'm more so a theoretical philosopher in that aspect. So I can't really. Well, actually, obviously, I have to know the facts. I have to know them, but being a theoretical philosopher, you kind of can't. Because if you do, then you just kind of become a scientist at that point. Anyway, thank you for watching the video this long. I know I babble along a lot, and I don't really shut up when I need to, but I hope you have a good day, whoever watches this video, and yeah, I'll see you guys later.